Here. Councilman Palmer.
Here.
Robert.
Here.
Here. Lipka. Here. Councilwoman Nelson. Here. Mayor Jones.
Here, a quorum is present. At this time, we move to our public comments. We ask that you will speak for 3 minutes. After that, you will get a 40-second warning towards your 3 minutes. And if you go past that, I will sound the gavel. And I want you to be respectful of the gavel. Clerk Pittman, who's our first person?
Roberta Coleman.
Go, but
Yeah, you work.
well, my name is Roberta Coleman, and I'm a resident of Ferguson. I live on Worcester Drive right behind the park. My reason for being here today is about the new program. And, what I did is when I got application to fill out for the job that I needed done or wanted done. I just got the letter, but I had gotten a application and I filled it out. But I had the work done. It was a tree in my front yard that I needed to be cut down or trimmed up for safety reasons. So instead of getting it cut down, it was trimmed for safety reasons. And I had the work done and they did the work. They came on a Monday and looked at the tree. And then they came back, they said the next day, which was Tuesday, they would send the guys out to work on the tree. And they did just that. Said it would be done in one day and it was done in one day. Now that the tree is down, we're having problems, seem like matching or whether or not that the program that they projected would be taking care of a portion of the labor for the tree. And I have the application, fill out the application. Limbs or Ferguson was the one that did the tree survey. Now I was told to send it, the job, how much it was, and I'm looking for the person's name that I sent it to. I brought it to City Hall. I brought it here to City Hall. And this is the name. I can't even read the name, and they couldn't even read it when they did the email. But he's the one supposed to be the president of the program. I sent him an email of this, the work that was done. I have the amount that I was charged for to get the tree trimmed. Instead of it being cut down, they sort of went up in the top of the tree and got all the dead limbs down out the tree. That would make it safe that nothing would fall on my house, fall on the car, fall on the postman, fall on anybody, because the limbs up in the tree was real dead and rotten and falling out. And my next door neighbor, 4th of July, the tree limb hit him, took him up out of here. He passed away. And ever since then, every time I see a limb that blew on out of my tree, it bothers me. So I wanted to, the tree cut down or something done to it to make it safe. And I had the work done. My thing now, question is there any way or anything that they do that they said they would do that would help me out with the street. To pay for it.
Ms. Coleman.
Comments or questions?
1 minute. Ms. Coleman, you brought all your paperwork with you. Would you pass it to Octavia, the city clerk, so she could take a look at it?
And Ms. Coleman, if you don't mind, could you give Ms. Pittman your phone number so that one of the council members could reach out to you? This right here?
On everything. Sure.
All right, thank you.
We'll get it back to you before the meeting is over. Thank you, Ms. Coleman.
Jamal Bailey?
Greetings, everyone. Greetings, Mayor Jones. Cabinet. I just wanted to introduce myself. It's right here. I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Jamal E. Bailey, and I'm running for Ferguson Forest School Board. I just wanted to come and let you guys know that I was running. I'll let you guys also know a little bit about myself. I'm a product of this community. I graduated from North High School, and the district did a lot for me, and it's a very passionate service that I'm trying to bring to the district. I want to do some things and give the kids what the district gave to me. I'm working on the PhD because of what the district did for me. Scholarship, and was able to do a lot of productive things in my life. And I also believe that part of what the community is being able to come back into your community and being able to uplift your community with the skill sets that your community poured into you. I'm a big firm believer in that. So I just want to introduce myself. We have a forum tomorrow where you can hear more about my platform. But I just really appreciate your time. And everybody have a great evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You didn't say I want your vote.
To Ryan Rome.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Good evening. I would like to say, real quickly, sorry I can't stay till I got a Zoom meeting at 7:30, but I did want to have an opportunity to speak today. My name is Teron Rome. I'm a resident homeowner in Ferguson right now, been over a year. And also, I've been able to tell you a little bit about what I'm looking to do here. When you look at first thing you gotta think about is, when you know better, you do better. And one thing about community, once you know better, I think we all must do better. I'm a part-time real estate investor, so I stayed at least 8 to 10 different parts of St. Louis over the last 20 years, here and there, working on properties, helping things, and getting beautifying neighborhoods. And I have an issue with a little bit about something that came up in my neighborhood, which was a quote-unquote barbecue pit that was sitting out in the yard. And I thought it was just for some barbecue, and I found out it became a permanent fixture. And I didn't think that was adequate to be in anyone's neighborhood. Anyone knows from real estate, you would know that you cannot have a good standard of living with barbecue pits or even cars, too many cars sitting in the front yard, furniture in the front yard. Anything that is not supposed to be in your front yard should not be in the front yard. When you're looking to buy a house, the first thing you do is look at the houses around you and the street around you, or if you want to live in the street. If you see things like this, you look at it as a derelict neighborhood. We don't want to live continually in something derelict that we can do something about. I feel as though right now, we need to do something about that right now and get up to standards. Standards meaning no cars jacked up all over nobody's house, in front of their house, messing up the neighborhood. We need to have also no barbecue pits, no furniture fixtures. We can beautify neighborhood and make Ferguson great. Ferguson is bad because of what they saw years ago. But they come to Ferguson and see how great we keep it together, we can make it together. I've been speaking with Councilman Palmer as well as Councilman Noah. They've been working with me, talking to me about how they would like to see it happen as well. And I understand all we need is a couple of good votes to make this happen. I think we need to make it happen now. I think we need to put this together, unify the neighborhood, take pride in where we come from. If all of us are from Ferguson, why don't we want all the streets to look good and have a good look all the time? Why don't we want things to be better? Why don't we want our kids to see better? I grew up all over the place. I never saw it before, no other municipality but this. And I'm hoping that I hope I'm here for a reason, which is change. And good change is what's necessary around here. If we can go about the proper way of getting it done, I understand I already got the support of Councilwoman Noah and Councilman Palmer. They already said they're ready to make it happen. So I understand we only need 4 votes. So for 5 more, you all in here, if y'all come on, give me these other 2 votes at least, we can make this happen. Let's not be scared, let's not be frightened to make change. Ain't nothing wrong with change. If you are scared of change, please tell me why.
Thank you.
Ain't no why, but okay, I'll make sure that I would love to answer a good why. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Hope we get it done.
Adrian Shropshire.
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
Wow, the other day was monumental. I want to thank all the council members that were at the swearing in of our new police chief. I mean, I want to thank the administrative, the parks, everybody who was here. It was great. But respect starts across the dais. And for something that's special and monumental, we could have cut an hour or 2 hours out of our day, council. I know I don't plan everybody's life and what goes on, but this was planned ahead of time. And I understand that you interviewed the chief. You did all the parameters that's supposed to be done, but you left one thing out: respect. Don't start with this chief like you did with the rest of the chiefs. This is a good man. Don't try to micromanage him. That's one thing that I saw. I've been coming to city council meetings and I've been watching, I've been sitting back. That's what I see. That's what I saw. Traffic. I think what I see, our neighbors speak. Our daggone neighbors burn the street up. People from BTC burn the street up. That's where we need to start at. Then we need to start with the temp tags. We can get a list. You can pipe into the city of Ferguson, to the state, see how many tip tags are out there. And then that's when you send them a warrant for expired temp tags. Send them a letter first. Hey, it's time to get your tags up to date. Because those are the speeders. You'd be surprised, because I'll be riding and a guy with daggone 2019 tags goes past me 90 miles an hour. And that's for real. And it might not live here in Ferguson. I'm just saying that could be a good start to slow things down in our area. I'm still upset about the land deal. I think it was wrong. It was unethical. And to have houses getting ready to be tore down now, I don't understand how that house missed the chopping block. How that house was not in with the rest of the homes that are getting ready to come up on a proposal to be tore down.
40 seconds.
I want to say, I hope our new chief comes in and does a great job for our community. And one thing I found out, not the unsafest city in North Carolina, about how we're unsafe. Don't be the little guy that cried wolf. and when you need help. Oh, well, wait a minute. Because I've been living here a long time. I've never had anything stolen out of my car. I've never had a burglary in my home. My neighbors haven't, and people all around Ward 1, Ward 2, Ward 3. But if you look in other areas, they're kicking doors in. We are nothing like our surrounding communities. And that's one thing I've looked up stats, and you look up the stats of our surrounding communities on homicides and thefts and car break-ins, we're doing well.
Mrs. Shropshire,
Thank you, Mayor.
thank you.
Alan Miller.
Thank you, Councilor Noah, for arranging the July 20 for the consent decree hearing. I hope you may make this available the next hearing. More people will take advantage of it now that they realize it wasn't standing room only, and since the next hearing will permit public comments. I emailed my comments about the boards and commissions ordinance to you yesterday, and I hope they were helpful. And I wish to speak the rest on Resolution 2023-11 concerning the demolition contract for 50 homes. G2 Wrecking gave a bid of $340,000 for this work. This was $140,000 below the next lowest bid, and there was a $550,000 spread, 340 versus 890 between the high and low bids. This is a red flag that something was amiss in either the RFP or in the bidding process. I suggest the city interview the low bidder before signing the contract. The contractor may be planning to make up for the bidding spread by playing the change order game. From the way the RFP was written, I estimate there were at least $100,000 potential change orders lying in wait. I don't have time to elaborate in these 3 minutes, so if you don't know where to look for the problems in the RFP, please give me a call. Next, this resolution represents a major shift in Ferguson policy. For much of our recent history, our mayors emphasized maximizing the property for revenue available from every property. Brian Fletcher in particular lobbied the owners of every vacant lot to build a house on their property, a far cry from the current bid to eradicate 50 houses. Further, the neighborhood stability and growth section of our Ferguson 2040 master plan emphasizes home ownership and says that the demolition should be the last resort. During my career, I have helped many building owners work miracles to save buildings that at the time looked hopeless. Councilor Palmer has had similar successes. Some of the properties that included in this resolution are undoubtedly beyond hope. Others, however, appear in relatively good shape. This brings us back to an important question. How were these buildings offered to the public before being slated for demolition? When in direct violation of the city charter, Councilor Palmer was recently gifted a property appraised at $35,700. Someone suggested that Ferguson take out a full page ad in the Ferguson Neighborhood News, Post-Dispatch, and other with the headline "Free Land." Others besides council members should have the opportunity to take advantage of Ferguson's tacit Homestead Act. Now we are in a better position. We can give homeowners free land with a clear title and a signing bonus averaging $7,100. Simply move them out from G2's contract for demolition to the homesteader's budget.
40 seconds.
The offer of free land and cash would raise interest in redeveloping these properties, thereby restoring the integrity of our neighborhoods, keeping these properties inhabited and returning property, utility, and even sales tax revenue to our city's budget. It's an alternative I think we should try. Thank you.
Nick Castle.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I don't want to curse Mr. Mueller by agreeing with him, but it could be that there's some houses on that big long list that are savable, and we might ought to take another look at that before we get somebody to tear them down. But that's not what I wanted to talk about. But it's related. We tore down 2 houses on Adele, 157 and the house next door. And this happened back in late 2021. In February of 2022, this council approved the transfer of 157 Adele to the owner of the property next door, which is the little shotgun rental property on the corner. The adjacent side lot program specifically states that it is only for owner occupied properties. And yet the council, I went back and looked at the video, and the council voted unanimously in favor of the resolution to give this property to a landlord. Supposedly this person was going to put a driveway there. They got the property in February of 2022, and I walked by it on the way to the council meeting this evening. Not only haven't they put a driveway in, but the lot is strewn with tires and trash and tree debris. There's no grass. It's just an eyesore. And there's 2 collapsing retaining walls between that property and the property that the landlord owns. And now they own both sides, so they can't play the game of this is my next door neighbor's retaining wall. So it wouldn't be a bad idea for a city inspector to go out to 157 Adele and have a look around and maybe write some of this stuff up. It's probably too late for the city to reverse the unlawful granting of the property to a landlord, but I would suggest that this council and whatever staff reviews these applications in the future to please be a little more careful. One more quick thing, and that is the consequence of us having given away that lot. The zoning ordinance for that particular area says that in order to develop a lot, you have to have 75 feet of frontage. The lot that we gave to the landlord has 50 feet of frontage. The lot that the city kept has 70 feet of frontage, so it's not large enough to develop now. So we've taken what could have been combined into a single lot and developed by somebody, gave half of it away illegally, and now the city's stuck with a lot that nobody will ever be able to develop. And
40
that's quite a
seconds.
shame. We need to look at these more closely in the future before we sign on the line. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jill Holtrop.
I want to apologize for wearing a ball cap. I really didn't intend to speak tonight. I wouldn't have worn a ball cap. Anyway, and I know I brought this up before, but because it's getting to be budget time, if it isn't already, I would just like to remind the council to please consider putting into the budget a marketing person for Ferguson. We have so many events that are scheduled in Ferguson that are very well intentioned, but they are very poorly marketed. They are very poorly attended, but historically, they were a source of information and enthusiasm and gathering for people to look forward to. And now they've all just kind of fizzled away. And that's partly because we need someone to help promote all of these civic events that we have going on. So I hope that you will consider getting a person, because it's not an expense, it's an investment really in Ferguson. Thank you.
Thank you.
Erica Brooks.
Hello.
Hi.
Dear Ferguson City Council members, citizens of Ferguson and listening audience, in 2014, it was hands up, don't shoot. When you vote on April 4th, 2023, the racial divide in Ferguson will prevail. Just as clear as the racial injustice that barreled through Michael Brown Jr.'s body on August the 9th, 2014, the key factors that were major concerns then are major concerns now, because the policies and procedures have not been properly executed in a timely manner, nor an update on the city's website to illustrate transparency, governmental accountability, and community engagement as far as the consent decree. The following areas illustrate transparency, governmental accountability. The following areas were supposed to implement and promote effective policing, promoting officer and public safety, ensuring fundamental fairness and equal treatment regardless of the race in a municipal court, and foster greater truth between the police officers and the community they serve, which are community policing and engagement, bias-free policing and court practices, stopping, search, and arrest, First Amendment use of force, officer supervision, accountability, civilian oversight, officer assistance and support, recruitment, mental health crisis intervention, data collection, reporting and transparency, school resource officers, and multiple municipality court reform. I went to the recent DOJ hearing of the consent decree on March 2023, and a few things were in place to maintain an appearance of effectiveness of the consent decree. In addition, the lessening of the duration of the consent decree was primary as well. But everyone seemed to overlook the reason for the consent decree and how effective the steps that have been taken thus far to address the unfair policing and racial injustice in our community of Ferguson have not been. We have been so focused on the Ferguson Police Department implementing lawful and racial justice that the city has not reported the high level of domestic and gun violence in our school district, unethical procedures taking place in the city government, not finalizing our redistricting map in a timely manner, not reporting where our federal funds are being dispersed in our
40
community,
seconds.
setting a political platform that recalled our city councilman Tony Burrow to be on the ballot and be a vote saver after spending $1,000 of tax dollars to recall her. African-American people, civil and human liberties are on the chopping block in this next election, not with a bullet, but with our vote. Get out and vote for our next mayor on Tuesday, April 4th, 2023.
Thank you.
Elder Annette Jenkins.
Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
Council, I would like to make sure that this be put on the record. I come before you asking the question that none of you seem to want to answer. First of all, I asked about Mike Palmer stepping down from his seat for insider trading. Second, I asked about who made the decision to push Chief McCall out and to bring in a county officer without having a town hall meeting. Where is the transparency? All I've been hearing the last 5 years or more is Linda Lipper getting smart with the citizens in public comments. I do not need to hear her smart comments. If she can't speak the truth, she need not to speak anything. Please, not tonight. I have heard all about the truth. Have you all heard about the truth? And the truth, so help you God. Apollo, Chief Hamilton, all I want is the truth. And by the way, what is this eye candy? You people need to stop talking about stupid stuff. I don't know what that means, and I wish somebody would tell me what it means, because I've been hearing that my name is in these rags that they call newspaper talking about eye candy. Please, somebody explain that to me. Thank you.
Drew Canada.
Good evening. Good evening.
Canada. Recent medically disabled Ferguson PD as of December 30th. You guys haven't seen me in a while because I've had a lot going on. My wrist is trash now. My 21-year career has come to an end. Fully disabled. I don't do race identity politics at all. At all. I don't believe in them. But because certain members of this community made it a point for there to be racial identity politics in this community. Since 2014. So, I got tired. I'm gonna bring up some history that apparently some council people, some pretty prominent members of this community, business owners of this community, forgot. Back in 14 and 15, it was brought to the attention of most of the people in this community. Over 60% of this community is people of color, minorities. And it was argued that time by people sitting in this audience right now that could be running for office, that the council needs the demographics of the council needs to represent the community. Okay. Me, I don't believe in that. I believe in the right person for the job. But since we're talking about identity politics, what's changed? What's changed from then to now? We had more people of color on our council, and we've seen to go in reverse. We now only have 2 people of color in the council, and our very first and wonderful and beautiful first, not only Black, but female mayor, who someone is trying to oust. Now, back in 14 through 19, that would be considered racist. What's changed? Does someone want their own little plantation? Interesting.
40 seconds.
On certain platforms on Facebook that certain people control, or they have minions that control it. They don't want the truth being told on there. So the truth is silenced. I can speak from that. I've been silenced. I can tell you, I've watched this person with these eyes, these windows of my soul, watch that man block off the roadway, help block off the roadway, as minuscule as that may be, help block off the roadway. So Ferguson officers could be assaulted and ultimately shot at over 120 times. That chief knows it. Captain Dilworth knows it. Captain Harris knows it. Mike Palmer, you know it. You were down at your building when we came down to protect it. And now you're gonna back this guy, really? What an insult, man. I considered you a friend, You know, I value my life. I really do. Apparently you guys don't.
True. Wrap it up, please. Okay, thank you.
And not only that, he has to present, his campaign, he's got 50 people in a residence in Ward 3.
Have one online, Cassandra Butler.
Cassandra?
Good evening. So I almost could reiterate some things my fellow residents have said, but I want to go back to, again, ethics codes and conflicts of interest. And I need to bring it up again since the majority on the council shows reluctance to give it the attention it demands and it deserves. So I've heard my fellow resident Annette asked that Mike Palmer step down. And I asked last time that Mr. Palmer either step down or stop doing business with the city. Other council members have said, have argued that Mr. Palmer is an asset to the city, and I am not disputing that at all. And I I thank him for that. I'm just saying it's a conflict of interest to do business with the city and to be on the council. It sounds like your value to the city is much more as a contractor to the city than it is as a council person, but it is indeed a conflict. So I do ask you make the choice of which one you prefer. I also I'm looking at this. Oh, I'm looking at the contracts that you all are discussing today. And let me talk about the cameras first. I would say we have a new police chief coming in, and I don't know what kind of input that chief has had about this contract. But I really think that if you don't consult him about his needs and his preference, because this does impact the resources he has to work with, his manpower. I would go with what Adrian say, that you're micromanaging the new chief before he even gets in place. And so I hope you've consulted with him. And if you haven't, I hope you delay this vote and give him a chance to have input on how this would work with his staff and his department.
40 seconds, Cassandra.
Okay, lastly, as Alan has said, I'm looking at this contract for request for proposal, and it's very, very curious. When I look at the spread of the amounts, it looks like, I wonder if this company that you want to choose, if they actually wrote the proposal, because it's so strange that it looks like they wrote the proposal. And also, Mr. Carey, you need to look at the proposal because there's some real mistakes. There are some mistakes in it. And lastly, I would say it's really important that you should prioritize which buildings should be, what order they should be demolished. And also, I would suggest maybe you might want to do it in groups of 15, like award 3 contracts, or do them 15 first, then another 15, then another 15. And it's not 50 on here, there's 48. So there's some problems with
Sandra.
this contract. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Okay, no, I do not have anyone else.
Okay. The public comment session is closed. We move to our manager's report. Interim City Manager, Chief Hampton, could you please give us your report?
Yes, Mayor, Council, pleasure being here tonight. Since our last council meeting, we've had 15 fires with the fire department. That's within city of Ferguson and surrounding areas. Right now, currently this week, we're doing Mayday training. We're doing that countywide at a building in St. John. We're also doing EMT training and Fire Officer 1 at City of Ferguson Fire Department. This weekend, we're gonna have Ember dog Easter egg hunt at the dog park. And also with the recent school shootings, police and fire reviewing our plan, and there's a new marking system that on April 6th that we'll be getting together with the Ferguson Florissant School District to go over that new marking system. We're just not the only fire department that runs Ferguson Florissant, so we will have Florissant Valley Fire Department with us as well. So we're all on the same page. And what that's going to do is it's going to be a better visibility for when we come in, if there is something. The other reminder I have is we need your teenage daughters and sons to apply for part-time positions in the city. We have a bunch this summer that we need to fill, and we could always use the help. And this way we can also keep some of the kids off the streets and get them some jobs. So that's my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll move to our special presentation. Before we do that, does anyone have any questions for Chief Hampton? Councilman Ashby.
And so Chief, and I apologize. We've talked about this a little bit, but is there like a tracking form where you list the number of fires each month and the number of calls you responded to? Is that something where we can almost have a dashboard and understand what's going on with public safety on a regular basis?
So we're working on their dashboard and we may piggyback off of what they're doing.
Councilman Palmer. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. The manager's report is closed. We move to the special presentation. Jenny Edwards. On behalf of the city of Ferguson, we would like to recognize you for all the work you do to rescue them, to give them a place, and you keep them until you find a home for them. And if they have to go to the vet, you take them to the vet. And you do this out of the goodness of your heart. So we appreciate you. And it's a certificate of recognition awarded to Jenny Edwards for your tireless rescue efforts to help combat the stray population. It's awarded to you on the 28th.
Go.
Hi, good evening. I'm not. Okay, little better. I'm short. Sorry. Thank you. I was really incredibly shocked when I got the message to call and then spoke with Ms. Pittman about the reason for my request to be here. I didn't expect this. I had no clue. I don't do what I do to be recognized. It's a need that we have in North County as a whole, specifically Ferguson, Florissant primarily. So I don't mind. My boss is flexible and it allows me to be able to go out and help and do what I can. And I wish we didn't need, my help. But I'm glad to be able to serve the purpose of the community and help get the pets back home. I would love to partner with the council about microchip opportunities or something like that. So maybe we could get even more of the strays back home so they can stay out of the shelter and not have to keep being rehomed, find some solutions in that area. Thank you so much for this recognition.
Yeah, Ms. Edwards, maybe we can work out something at the firehouse. And then also, do you need donations for food or anything?
I would love that.
Okay, and how can we get those to you?
I can give you my number.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Okay.
And we'll put something out on, I'll work with Dave. We'll put something out.
Okay.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Chesapeake Park, Bryce Robinson.
We do. She's named Octavia.
Right, right. I do have your presentation, if that'll be easier. Yeah. 'Cause I'm
this one doesn't have any in there. Two. Okay. They would also give you a new bridge, new gates, new corners to the park. Also give you a very awesome sculpture of Nathan.
Mhm. While we are waiting, Bryce's work is at gate number 45, Southwest Airlines. It is phenomenal. They have it up 2 walls. If you ever travel on Southwest, try to get to gate 45 so you can see his artwork. It's been there, what, 2 years? About 2 years? Okay.
I'll take it out. Yeah, I have to.
Mayor, while we're waiting, can I take a 1-minute break? I apologize.
Just say you need to be excused.
I need to be excused.
Okay.
Excuse me.
That's fine. That's fine.
I'll talk to that, council members, community, thank you so much for having me. My name is Bryce Robinson. I'm the founding instigator of Jet Ski Sculpture Park in Ferguson, Missouri. The last time I was here to speak to everyone was I was 26, it was 10 years ago. And it's a pleasure to be here now. And I hope to do this again in another 10. So I want to talk a little bit about Jet Ski Sculpture Park, the program, where we've been, where we'd like to go, and I'd like to ask for your support in moving forward. So we started our first exhibition in 2014. We actually opened 2 months before Michael Brown and all the events that came after that. The park that we run is 7 acres. It's open all year round and free to the public. This is a partnership of the city of Ferguson, Friends of Jet Ski Sculpture Park, which is our 501c3 fundraising organization, and the Ferguson Parks Department. Seed funding came from the Ferguson Lions Club. They were our fantastic sponsor to get us started. The Emerson Corporation became our real flagship sponsor. And then we got donations from small funders and residents. We do, in addition to our biennial sculpture exhibitions, we do iron casting events, collaboration with Laumeier Sculpture Park, which I will talk about, and we do guided walking tours. So a little history, this is an image of the site when we got started, and this is our first exhibition in 2014. The park came about, the sculpture program came about just as we were getting a new walking trail around Jeske, and it made for a really nice exhibition that is ADA compliant. So this is our 2014 inaugural exhibition, 10 works by 8 artists from 7 states. Our shows are 2-year biennial exhibitions, meaning the work rotates every 2 years. So you should see new work every couple of years in the park. Part of the intent of that is to keep things fresh, keep things changing, and to really reflect what is going on in the contemporary sculpture world. We've shown work from all over the United States, from people as far south as Texas, hometown folks. This is one of my former students from a local community college. This was his first large-scale sculpture. It was great to give him the opportunity to show that here. And we've shown work from African-American sculptors, women, Native Americans, sort of every class and type of people you could possibly imagine. We've shown work from as far away as New York, and we recently had our first international artist in residence that I will talk about here in a little bit. We're really proud of the exhibitions that we've done. We're really proud of being able to showcase this work in Ferguson and to really be a unique community asset that not a lot of municipalities can say that they have. So when we got sort of mid-COVID, I started having a discussion with a friend of mine, before COVID, Jordanian sculptor Diala Aldegliz. We invited Diala to come and spend 2 weeks living North County, making sculpture in my shop. So we're both very strong-willed sculptors. We were initially going to do a collaboration, and we agreed to not. So we both made 2 separate pieces that are in conversation with one another. They're actually both about our relationships with our fathers, which are both good, thankfully. But this is her piece, which is one of the pieces that's currently in the exhibition. This is a tremendous achievement for any sculptor to be able to make a large-scale outdoor piece that weighs about 2,000 pounds is quite a feat. And Diala primarily works in metal foundries. She probably made nothing bigger than the human body. So to make something at this scale is really an achievement and a mile marker in her career. And we're incredibly proud to have it here. So what am I here to ask you for? Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we lost our greatest sponsor in the Emerson Corporation. Emerson decided to not fund any small, quote unquote, small arts organizations. The size of arts organization they want to fund is the St. Louis Art Museum. So they will not fund anybody below that anymore. We're hoping that will change as economic conditions change. We're hoping to approach other corporations, but we need some stopgap funding to get us through for the next few years. So I'm asking for funds to support our 2024 and 2026 biennial exhibitions. Each exhibition, we select 10 works from across the US, and we pay the artists an honorarium, which is essentially a rental fee, to borrow their work and show it in the park. So each artist should be paid a $2,000 honorarium, which is a rental fee for 2 years of showing their work. So you can think about it like $1,000 a year. If that doesn't sound like a lot, it's not a lot. As a sculptor, I can tell you it's difficult to make a living doing that. You end up shuffling your work around to places to kind of add up to a living. If it sounds like a lot of money, I can tell you that with the cost of gas, materials, equipment, supplies, and studio space, it is not. So that amount is actually calibrated for other sculpture exhibitions in the region. Some places pay quite a bit more. Some places pay a little bit less. And $2,000 for a 2-year loan is right on target where we need to be. So for 4 years of sculpture at Jeske Sculpture Park, that equates to $40,000. In addition to the biennial exhibitions that we do, we've also done some special programs as they've come about. This is a partnership we did with Laumeier Sculpture Park. This is Nigerian-born painter and installation artist Odili Donald Odita. Odili was going to be doing a piece at Laumeier, and Laumeier reached out to me and Jeske and said that Odili was really interested while he was here in St. Louis and also doing something in Ferguson. So Odili I asked that if he was going to do work about Ferguson or involving Ferguson, he would just come and visit and spend some time here. So he came, we hung out for a couple of days, we drove around, we talked to folks and talked about the history of the place. And he came up with this really lovely exhibition that takes place in 2 sites. Lawmeyer Sculpture Park in Sunset Hills, which is 105 acres of the sculpture park, and Jeske Sculpture Park in Ferguson, which is 7 acres. And the point of the exhibition, the point of putting both of these sites, using both of these sites at the same time, is to require the viewers to actually go from Sunset Hills to Ferguson, Ferguson to Sunset Hills, and think about the experience of driving through all the different municipalities, communities, areas of St. Louis, and seeing all walks of life as you do so. There's a lot of things we share in commonality. There's a lot of things different, and there's definitely something that comes from seeing what we can do at our little 7-acre sculpture park with a tiny budget, and seeing what Lawmeyer can do at 105 acres with a nice big budget. I don't want to boast, but we do better. So Jeske Sculpture Park has been written about in the Ferguson Times, Post-Dispatch, Ladue News, the St. Louis Magazine, the Washington Post mentioned that we exist. That's what the little asterisk means. The Wall Street Journal wrote a really lovely article in the pandemic about how sculpture parks were the only arts events that you could attend and be COVID safe. And we really had some excellent, we had an excellent opening during COVID. Jeske Sculpture Park features prominently in local real estate listings. If you look at the local real estate listings within a mile, Jeske Sculpture Park is the first thing that comes up on all of them as community amenities. And we've been awarded a recognition from the Municipal League of St. Louis County. Along with all that, we do our own sort of creative infrastructure projects. We make tag stands that go with the works every time we install a new exhibition. And I also work with some of my iron casting buddies to make our own manhole covers that have the logo of the sculpture park. These were cast in Granite City, Illinois with some friends of mine, and they're now on the site in Jeske Park. So I'd like to talk to you about some more creative infrastructure projects that I think would really do a tremendous service to this community asset. This is the central bridge in the park, and all the bridges and the sort of perimeter railings look like this. They're pretty unsightly, pretty uninteresting, and I think that we would like to propose that they be redesigned and reinstalled, refabricated by artists, designers, and student teams. So we'd like to do a competition and award some money to redesign these bridge railings throughout the park. There's a central bridge we'd like to do. There's some railings on the perimeter. And another idea that we proposed was maybe a new bridge connecting the Nancy side of the park to the central part of the park. Right now, it's a really weird walk to get around to the Nancy side. And I think we would have better pedestrian flow and access if we added a new bridge there. So to give you an idea of the kinds of things we're talking about, of course, you could look up a million different creative bridge rail designs on the internet, but we would want to commission a group of artists to design something unique and specific to our site and our context. Another area of the park that we really think is ripe for sort of innovation and creativity is this sort of seldomly used T-ball field at the top. And what we're sort of thinking about is the work of Bob Casserly. So Bob Casserly, for those of you that know, is a really important person in the city of St. Louis. He's the founder, the creative genius behind the City Museum, something that has been the major catalyst for tourism and people coming to St. Louis. People will now come to St. Louis for the City Museum because of the work of Bob Casserly. Unfortunately, he flipped over a bulldozer on himself and is no longer with us, but his legacy lives on in his work and also can be seen all over St. Louis. Turtle Park is another one of his projects. And this sort of thing, I think, would be perfect for Jeske Park. A sculptural installation, something that kids can play on, something that is intentionally playable, but also creative and attractive amenity, and something that we can really tout as our own. So we'd like to design and build a sculpture play area using that kickball field. Right now, if you play kickball there, your ball ends up in the creek. So we think this might be a better use for this site. Just to give you an idea of some of the things that we would look at as inspiration, these are some really cool playground designs made of natural materials. These are in Japan. Beautiful sort of sculptural forms, things that kids can play on and run around. Thinking about how much plastic and how many screens are in our world, what about using some natural materials? Wood, metal, stone. If you're into education, Montessori school is all about focusing on natural connections with the earth, your tactility, and developing a real sense of community through, your built environment. So these are some cool ideas from the 50s and 60s. Some really amazing sculptural forms that are great to look at, but also very intentional that kids can play on and be safe. So in order to do something like this is a little back of the napkin math with some sculpture friends and I. We kind of worked it out that with community sort of labor support, people coming out to the park, helping us saw wood, set posts, dig holes, that kind of thing. About $60,000 is the ask to do something like this. That's not a lot. That's really leaning on the community. But as we saw with during COVID, the great mow that happened to Jeske Park, the grass got high, the community got together and mowed the whole thing themselves, all 7 acres with push mowers and riding lawnmowers. I think we would have no problem getting folks together to come out and build this with us. So to recap the ask, the thing that really kind of makes this park what it is, gives it its character, allows us to serve our purpose and our mission. Our sort of foundational level support that we're asking for is that $40,000 to do 4 years of sculpture in our biennial exhibitions. And then we have our upgrade options of either the creative infrastructure, doing those bridges and rails, or doing a sculptural playscape, option B. We would love any of it funded, all of it funded. I know it's a big ask, but for what it brings to the community, I think it's, drops in a bucket. Thank you all. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Bryce. Any questions? If not, we'll move on. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, we don't have a public hearing tonight. We move to the consent agenda. The city council meeting minutes, we don't have any tonight. The board and commission meeting minutes, none. Do we have any appointments for tonight? Hear none. We don't have any proclamations. We move to the resolutions. We have resolution number 2023-11. Without objections, we're introduced by council members present. Attorney Carey, could you please read the resolution?
Yes, ma'am. Resolution number 2023-11, a resolution selecting a contractor for the demolition of 50 residential properties, awarding the contract to said contractor and authorizing the city manager to execute the contract on behalf of the city.
Interim city manager, could you please explain?
Yes, Mayor. I will have Dave Musgrave come up and explain all.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
This is a RFP that was written by Elliot Liebson prior to moving from Ferguson. It was sent out going on 3 weeks ago, closed 2 weeks ago now, I believe. But we received 3 bids on it. The information packet. All the bidders that responded did complete the packet correctly. We checked them for their bid bonds, all that stuff. Did online research for their reviews. So everything was vetted in that regard. I spoke to Attorney Apollo about a couple of different things on that regard. And basically the resolution is written for up to 50 properties. There's 48 on the list. They can be pieced together as far as how we do it in the order, that kind of stuff. It's all at the city's discretion. So how we want to proceed with that is up to us. But this is a contract for the whole lump sum. Primary reason, on average, we've done demos up to this point. We've been averaging anything from $10,000 to $15,000 per property to tear them down. By doing this many at the same time, we got the total down to about $7,000. By doing more, we're saving money in the long run. So that was a general consensus here. So questions, I'll do my best to answer them, but that's kind of where we're at.
Who was first? I wasn't looking. Okay. Councilman Palmer.
Traditionally, when I've seen the city do the house demolition in the past, you will see a change order sometimes come forward due to asbestos or lead. So from what I kind of read in the bid proposals, not a single bid proposal included that, correct?
That's 100% correct. Without going into the homes and knowing what the material is, we can't say if it has asbestos or does not. So that would be a change order identified in the RFP if there is asbestos present.
And that commonly does seem to happen. Like, I think every time we do 10 properties a year, usually 3 or 4 come back with somewhat of a change order.
I'll be honest, I'm not planning and zoning, but I'll lean on my experience. We just took down the car wash a couple of years ago. We had to do a change order for the asbestos there. You all may recall. We demoed the property. We had to do the change order, a few $1,000s. I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but they came out, get rid of the asbestos, and that's an add-on at that point. So.
Thank you.
Councilman Ashby.
And so is the cost of different change orders called out in the RFP? Or is that something that is kind of open-ended?
It's open-ended and it would be case-by-case scenario. So. Better on the property.
And then Mr. Mueller actually suggested there were a number of some vague parts of the contract. Have you looked at the concerns that he had about the possible issues?
I'll be honest, I haven't spoken with Mr. Mueller. I was assuming when he was speaking to the asbestos and those things, but without knowing exactly what he's pointing out, I can't speak to that.
Okay. And then, but you say that it's for up to 50. We've got 48 listed. Is there a time period where we have to get through all 50?
No.
So we could sign this now. We could do this over 2 years?
Correct.
Over 2 years.
The goal would be to do it as quickly as possible because of our budget. Budget, of course, ends July 1 and it's restructured again. June 30th, restructured July 1. So the goal would be to get it done within this budget so we don't have to carry over balances. We don't like doing that. But there is no outline as far as we have to complete the work by X dates.
Okay, perfect. So it is open-ended. If it takes a little bit longer, that's fine. Or I'm sorry. And so then the next question is, so are you going to part? And so I think Mike said the same thing. So it sounds like there might be a small handful of houses that could be rehabilitated, 5%, 10%?
That, from reading through the RFP, that would be my guess, yes.
Okay, but Mike, you've looked at those and nobody stepped forward to offer to buy them, have they?
The unique situation here, without getting real deep into the weeds, is the property restoration program, which the city can use as a marketing tool to redevelop property, is for extremely tax delinquent property that the city can actually obtain. These properties are not anywhere near that point. These are properties that people just, you call them absentee. They don't do anything, but they do pay the taxes. So correct me if I'm wrong, Chief Hampton, but the city is using summary abatement to abate a nuisance in this situation. So it's not as easy as the city saying, give us this property to use for property restoration program, because the city technically, legally cannot take the property. Even when the city tears down the structure, the property is still going to remain in the name of the current owner with a lien attached to the property for the removal of the dangerous structure. So while it'd be fantastic for the property on Harrison to be put out for property restoration program, it's not realistic because the property is not even eligible for property restoration program. Personally, I think what will happen is when the city starts to do the proper notice requirements to remove with summary abatement, some of these owners are going to get off the pot and do something. They're either going to sell it or they're going to fix it to solve the problems because they don't want to lose their investment. But some of those properties, I can tell you, have been long and neglected. We've been cutting the grass for 10 years. The street of Emerald is a great example. There's about 8 or 9 on that street alone, and you can't even see some of the houses. So I don't foresee someone coming forward to abate the nuisance, but I don't think this list will be 48 after the first notice goes out, because I think a lot of people are going to say, hey, wait a minute, don't tear my house down. What'd I do?
And so that's the key point. These are not houses that the city has taken over because of back taxes. These are houses that are owned by private individuals or corporations, and we're using the nuisance law as a way of putting pressure on the landlords, either fix the houses or to have them torn down and get the bill for it.
Chief, City Manager Hampton could allude to that, but I think there might be a couple on here that might be like, are any of the suburban properties on here?
Dave, people probably looking at it a little bit more than me.
No,
Okay.
it's 511 Suburban Avenue.
Okay.
You're
Yeah, I think
talking
this,
about the house on Burdale. and
yeah,
all
the
that.
Burdale Court would be separate, correct? Okay. So as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know, I think most of these properties from what I looked are they're not owned by the city, and the city cannot own the properties, but they can remove the hazard, whether it's financial or hazard to public. I mean, 401 South Dade, there's 3 on South Dade right across from the park with doors wide open and the roofs caved in that where, I mean, that's not very inviting for the park.
Yeah.
And kids, I mean, that is an extreme hazard for kids to go wandering into these houses, especially on spring break or in the summer. There's some houses that are really dangerous. There's a couple that have caved in basements that I think I saw some pictures of. But I don't know who compiled the list, but some of the houses, when you kind of drive by, you kind of look and you go, well, it doesn't look that bad, but I've seen 50 others that aren't on the list, such as there's 3 or 4 on Paul Avenue that are not on the list, but somehow that street may have got missed. But the hope is that we can try to slowly, I think, catch up to get some of these houses removed to the point where we're not tearing down 50 a year. We're going back to the traditional 7 or 8 or 10 from generally people that don't have insurance, the house burns down. But yes, the houses are currently owned by other individuals. And the key here, I think, is to get them to do something with it. Otherwise, the nuisance needs to be removed.
Okay, and fantastic. And so the way the contract is structured, if we send out notices, how long do homeowners have to respond before we tear them down?
Positive, but I want to say it's 2 weeks or 30 days. But don't quote me.
A little bit longer than 30 days. But to your point, Mike, if somebody steps up and actually fixes one of those homes that could be fixed, we've brought another home back into the housing stock, and then we can shift over that capacity to another home in another part of town.
Correct. A suggestion I made to staff when this kind of came out was if somebody comes similar to what the city does with the LRA, the Land Reutilization Authority in the city, it's a different county, they operate under a different set of state statutes, but they can actually take property. People will give them property. Hey, don't tear it down. I don't want it anymore. Here you go. If that happened, that'd be fantastic, because then the city would have ownership for one, if it is still a tear down, but also they would open the opportunity to market that property through the property restoration program. I don't know how many of those are actually going to happen, but that is a realistic-ish thing that could come about, is if they say, no, hey, go ahead, tear it down. We don't want no part of it.
Well, and is that something we could formally offer them and say, hey, we're going to tear down your house in a month. You've got the options of getting hit with a $10,000 bill, or we're going to, or you can give the property back to us and walk away.
I mean, I would encourage staff to look at that option if that comes forward. I mean, some of these properties, like Alan Mueller had said, sometimes you can make certain things happen. Sometimes something that looks like it's horrible is generally, maybe not that bad if it doesn't have significant structural concerns. The house in Lake Pembroke probably could be saved, but it looks awful. The roof's caved in, but it's a solid masonry structure. New roof trusses, new interior walls. It probably could be saved, but it's going to be a $150,000 project. But if somebody's willing to fix up the house, we should definitely go that route and then reallocate resources for other properties that might be in need as well for demolition, I think.
And then one last question, I apologize. So when we hit the it's the lot owner, right, where we torn down the house, how much markup can we put on the contract for the city time and hit them with a bigger bill?
I'm not positive on that one. I know we can put the cost of the demo on there. I want to say any staff investment as far as time and that kind of stuff we build as well. That's how it is. For example, nuisance paper grass mowing, we're billing for time, materials, everything on that. So I would assume everything will be billed.
So you're referring to the lien?
Yeah, so when we lean them after the fact, let's hit them with as much money as possible.
Well,
But let's give them the chance ahead of time to fix it.
Well, I agree with that. I would say, though, that, Mr. Palmer, maybe you can help, and Chief Hampton, do we actually see liens actually get paid? I mean, quite honestly, if somebody doesn't care, they still don't care. You put the lien on the property. I mean, is it like a 5% percentage of liens that actually get paid back to the city, or is it higher than that? I would love to say it here, it's higher.
Paid before they transfer. Go ahead. Rid of the property has to be paid before the transfer. So
Process here too, and we do put the liens on now, and we do register them.
Okay, because at this point, so we go in, and I'm not disagreeing with anybody. I'm just trying to kind of verbalize it. So we go in, they are still paying the taxes on the property, but the house is falling down. You go in, you tear down the house because it's a nuisance to the safety of your community. And then they still own the property. Now you put the lien on the house. If they want to sell the property, then they can. But if they don't want to sell the property because they don't want to pay the lien, or they don't care, or whatever the case may be, we're then stuck with an empty lot And we have that situation going. And then if they don't want to mow their empty lot, we're mowing it and we're just adding to the lien. So I mean, when does this come to an end? I guess is my question.
From my experience as the nuisance abatement contractor prior to being on council, the city's already cutting these yards anyway and picking up trash and tires and towing cars off them. In reality, are you ever going to collect a $10,000 nuisance abatement off of a property, a lot in Ferguson? Probably not. But the reality is the properties, when they're in such disrepair, they affect adjacent properties when it comes to assessment. So when you have a property owner who has a meticulous property that looks beautiful, it's worth $70,000-$80,000 and he gets that tax bill reassessment year and he lives next to one of these places, he's going to walk in there and go, why am I paying this much when I live next to a house that's not even worth $3,000? There's also the life safety issue. Like I said, these houses, there's a house over on, maybe not Emerald, but there's one on Bailey maybe where there was gang activity inside the house and there's graffiti inside the house. And the police have pulled multiple people out of that property. The kids keep coming back and doing things they're not supposed to do in that house. I just saw it went up for sale, but in reality, the hope would be that you get these lots, the house is cleaned up, the lots cleaned up, we cut them in a timely fashion. So it's cheap to cut them. But hopefully down the road, you have 50, 60 lots in one area and you can attract, an organization to come in and do some sort of infill housing.
Yeah.
Currently, this really hurts our tax base. I see it all the time at the Board of Equalization. There is constantly people in there saying, look what I live next to. My tax rate is astronomical and look what I live by, and if we don't remove those issues, like the gentleman said tonight, people come and look at a house. The first thing they're going to see is the house next door. And in some situations, there's 9 on one street. I would never foresee it today, an owner occupant buying anything on Emerald or Bailey because the street just looks so bad, and one thing I suggested, this is getting into the weeds, but I suggested once we get somebody's houses tore down, just cut a 10-foot path around the outside. Let the thing go to, become natural vegetation in some situations. It could become green space or you could plant something or.
Well, there's also, and that's something that Stephen Garrett and I brought up when he was on council. And there's also, we've looked into it. There's also grant programs and all kinds of things through the Missouri Botanical Garden for natural habitat growth and things like that. And then there's also there's a lot of opportunities there. So yeah, you could even turn them into solar farms right there and make some help out the community in that regard. The other thing I wanted to bring up is I agree that there are some minor errors in this and I would like to have them corrected before we pass anything. But where you said, Mr. Musgrave, that it was up to 50, that needs to be stated in here because it's stated that it is 50. So we need to add the words up to. And then also we have that it's, let's see, the city manager authorized to execute an agreement not to exceed 350. Okay.
Yeah, so.
That part,
And we are going to fix them.
okay, that part I can see where it's already taken care of. So that is all I have.
Councilwoman Noor.
I just have a quick question. So it's just the property. It's not going to be any of the trees. Like for instance,
Right.
6129 Dupree has a large tree in front of the property. So that tree will still be there, although the property will be demoed.
So we can look at the tree and see if it is, if it is a dead tree, we'll look at that as well. Because sometimes they may have to take down a tree to get to the house.
On the same breath, if it's nuisance abatement, the route we're going, if that's also a hazard, then it can be added to.
And also on these, we will triage these, kind of like in my world. We're gonna triage them so that we're gonna take the worst first. And then we will work with the homeowners to try to get them either back in good gracious with the city and either you rent it or you own it.
Right, okay.
We will work with them.
Councilwoman Noor, you had another question about 619 Brotherton.
Yes, well, 619 Brotherton has a for sale sign in the yard, and we definitely don't want to demo that home. So, but Chief stated that they're going to revise the list.
Yes, ma'am. I'll get with code enforcement tomorrow and I also have police representative and a fire marshal. And then that way, everybody with the knowledge of the property can work it out together.
Okay, Councilwoman Lipka.
Mr. Musgrave, on the change order for the asbestos removal, which we know with 50 houses that age, we're gonna see some asbestos. What is, I mean, I know I see here the requirements, but is there any way to kind of go through the 50 locations and get an idea of what asbestos is needed so that you could do like a group thing? Or if not, okay, you're shaking your head no. But the next question is, are we going to RFP that, or are we letting this contractor pick their own? Because I don't want, my cousin Vinny just became an asbestos remover, so I pick him. I want an RFP process if that's possible.
In the past, we've used specific vendors that we have vetted to know.
Okay.
Getting a good quote on that. In regards to grouping them together, at this point, we don't even know which homes we're gonna be acquiring, so there's no real way to know how to group them together and which ones we're gonna be going, and which ones have asbestos. And then scale is always dependent. You could have just asbestos shingles, you could have things in the wall, ceiling, that kind of stuff. There's no way to get a ballpark figure for what that dollar amount's gonna look like, depending on the home's age.
I would just say if you have an opportunity, like if you're doing all of the houses on Emerald 1 month, that maybe that would be a great opportunity to kind of lump together or package that cost.
All the vendors that bid on this express that as well. If we can mobilize one time for a street, that's gonna save us money in the process. So that's.
Saves movement of their equipment and everything else too. Okay.
And also with the asbestos, if it's a life safety hazard for them, that they don't have to take that out with the, it would just be part of the demo.
Any other questions for Dave? Councilman Ashby?
And so just to confirm, so we can't use the nuisance laws to actually take possession of the homes quickly or easily, right? If we tried to take possession of the nuisance law, that would be a long-term process and also very expensive. Okay. And then, obviously a lot of work went into this, and thank you for everybody that took the time to contribute to it. I think we ought to ask all the property owners if they'd like to sell the house to one of the housing places. I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask, because we're about to put them underwater on their investment. They've been paying taxes on these homes. We tear them down, they're gonna have a $10,000 lien on them. The lot's worth, what's the lot worth in Ferguson? $15,000 or $20,000? Zero. Anyway, so, that would be my hope, is that we can reach out to these property owners ahead of time and say, this is what we're about to do. We either need you to, fix up your home, or if you're not interested in doing that, the city would be happy to buy the lot from you for $1 or something like that.
We'll look into it.
And this might address that question, Attorney Carey. There is a significant amount of notice requirement, right, to do this? We even get a warrant to enter the property to tear the house down, I believe. Okay. And then I was curious too, you're kind of a real estate guy, right? That's kind of your expertise in the law. What is the legal process for a lien holder to obtain title of a property? Is it a quiet title motion that?
Totem pole, you can file the quiet title action, and that's really sort of a executing on the lien, if you will. But technically, whenever you execute on the lien, you really only execute down if the people are above on the priority list. Those can't be served. So a lot of times, it's easier to work it out if you're not the top lien holder, because if you're a lien holder that's down on the priority list, really only really only foreclosed down, it foreclosed up. But the one thing about property is, so really it's always St. Louis County and their tax sort of the most superior.
Federal tax liens.
Yeah. Government. Yeah, so to your points.
Okay, thank you.
That down the road.
Okay, any other questions for Dave and Apollo and the city manager? We good? Okay. Thank you, Dave. At this time, I will request a motion and a second for approval.
I'll motion Blake Ashby.
Second, Laquita Noah.
Clerk Pittman, could you please call the roll?
Councilman Ashby.
Aye.
Councilwoman Robinette.
Aye.
Mayor Jones.
Aye.
Councilman Lipton.
Aye.
Councilwoman Noah.
Aye.
Nelson. I'm sorry, Councilwoman Nelson. Aye. Noah.
Aye.
Councilman Palmer.
Aye.
Okay, resolution number 2023-11 passes. We move to resolution number 2023-12. Without objection, we're introduced by council members present. Hear none, Attorney Carey, could you please read the resolution?
Yes, ma'am. Resolution number 2023-12, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with Flock Safety for the city of Ferguson, Missouri.
Interim City Manager Hampton?
Yes, Mayor, Council. This past week, I was in a training session and or informational session with Flock's safety system. We are going out currently, or they are going out currently looking at permits for the locations. And this is going to be the license plate reader for police department. So, one thing within this is that we went to a 5-year contract because after this year, it's going to go up quite a bit. So we thought going with the 5-year contract would be better than a 1 or 2 year.
Okay. Councilwoman Lipka?
So some concerns were brought up during public comments, and I was wondering if, so I know that Chief Doyle has already been working on getting up to speed so that when he starts on April 3rd, he is hitting the ground running. That being said, I'm also have no doubt that he's very, very familiar with Flock, with county and so forth. My question is, can you kind of address the issue that has he had input on this, or has a discussion happened, or, you know, along those lines, if you could help me
Yeah.
there.
So, ever since Doyle was named our police chief, he has been included in every conversation. So he knows what we're talking about. Flock is a very well-known system,
Right.
not just here. And all communities work together with the Flock system. So it's just not Flock for Ferguson,
Right.
but it is Flock over the whole North County, over St. Louis County. So this is very well known. And so, yes, Chief Doyle does know.
Okay.
And he has put in.
So, and that was is something too, that if you aren't familiar with Flock, I highly recommend you go look it up on, or Google it and get some research on it. But Flock is only as good as how many communities use it, quite honestly. So if you have a lot of surrounding communities using this system, they all interact and overlap and they integrate with one another. So it becomes a very powerful force to slow down and get those criminals off the street and not hurting people. So that is something that makes this imperative and important, and it does go toward the crime issue, the consent decree concerns, as well as the traffic concerns and so forth, because with the license plate reading, it is an ability to let the guy in the next county say, hey, he's coming your way. This is what his car looks like. This is how fast he's driving. This is what he's doing. This is why we want to stop him. And you have not just one police force working to get the criminal off the street. You have all surrounding police forces working together.
Yeah, to add to that, Amber Alerts.
Yes.
And other crimes committed within Ferguson, those license plates, if we know it, we will be able to track that license plate a lot quicker and get it to who we need to.
So just to be clear, so everyone knows, you have, Chief Doyle does know about this and he's on board with this.
He
Okay.
is.
Yes, yes.
So
Yes.
everyone knows.
Yeah.
Everything that's happening, Chief Doyle knows, and he's been very well informed.
Thank you, sir.
And the other municipalities, they have been waiting on us
Mhm.
to get to this Flock system so all the chiefs can communicate with one another. So this is a big plus for Ferguson.
And one thing people need to keep in mind, we are a cut through community to get to the major highways. You don't get to 70, 270, 170 without cutting through Ferguson in this area, especially if you're on a chase. So this is something that Berkeley and Cool Valley and Jennings and everybody needs us to have.
Yeah, and
True.
with Chief Doyle's speech himself, he says he wants to bring the police departments together. And I think this is one way he plans on doing that.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I was gonna help you out. The 4 locations that were listed, those were just the 4 that it's the Missouri Department of Transportation. We have to get permits from.
So we have to get permits from, if it's on an Ameren pole, we have to get a permit from Ameren. If it's a state pole, we have to get a permit from the state. If it's a county road or a county light or whatever, we have to get a permit from the county. If it's ours, we do not have to get a permit. We would just do this ordinance.
Okay,
Well, we can work off our own streetlights that we own and then we operate. So, yeah.
Up our own stuff next
Well-
to a county.
Well,
that's-
you also have to have the ability to have electric and all that. And that's gonna cost you money where it's already established.
Gotcha.
Okay. Okay, Councilman Ashby.
And so you have selected all locations. It's just that those 4 were listed because we had to get extra permits and approvals.
Yeah, so all the cameras will have to have those. This was, I believe, these were the ones for Ameren, I believe,
Okay.
that we needed permission on. And the ones for county and the state take a little bit longer than Ameren. But what is going to happen is we need this currently because prices will go up next month. So we have to have this by April 1st. This is why this is on here tonight.
And so, but real quick, you've selected all the locations. You've talked to the police department. You've talked to Chief Doyle about that. And so then just real quick. So one of the challenges for the neighborhoods is, people drive by, they jump out of the car, they run up, they steal a package and they leave. Will the police department be able to have a citizen call in and say, hey, a Chevy Impala, stole packages from my front porch at 6:57 a.m. Are you going to be able to actually go in and flag a vehicle or look at all the Chevy Impalas that came into the city at that time block and then put a?
So no, that's too much. We don't have an officer to sit there and look at the cameras all day long. There's more than one camera that's going to be out. So, I mean, if they have a license plate, then we can look up that license plate. But we won't be able to just stare at all the monitors.
No, I understand. But if somebody said to you, hey, a Chevy Impala, somebody got out of a Chevy Impala at 6:57 in the morning and stole something from my car, could you do a search on Chevy Impalas that came into the city?
I don't believe so. I don't know, but I will check into it because it's more of a license plate reader.
Yeah, but the license plates are so, okay, well, that's fine. But to your point, right, we need to do this today because the prices go up next month.
Yeah, we're also in other programs that we will potentially, hopefully have that capability. And we are using it right now for the potential hit and run last night and the hit and run on the school buses. Okay. So we're working with Ameren on that program that we currently are in. So when we're downloading video from that currently.
Fantastic. Okay.
Councilman Palmer.
Couple of questions and or concerns I have are, how involved was Chief Doyle in the entire, has he seen the 12 locations? Like, or is he just in favor of flock cameras in general?
So I did not pick these locations. The police department did. I had Chief Doyle, Interim Chief Dilworth there. I had Tim Harris there. I had Todd Mink there. I had, and then they coordinated with Chief Doyle. And these are the selections that they have. We also have to look at how they're being mounted. And so you just can't put them on just, I'm going to put it on this street light. It has to be mounted correctly. So you may be a little bit away from that intersection, but it's because how we have to move the camera.
I read the contract. You can actually get a flock provided pole as well for an additional fee.
Yeah, an additional fee.
Um,
But I mean, we can use an Ameren pole, which is right by it, which will have the electric and all that ready to go.
Another question I have is, since flock is kind of the go-to for this, we already have flock cameras in Ferguson that are paid for by county's violent individual apprehension team. You'll probably don't know they're there, but they are there. If you see Dodge Caravans flying around and Dodge Chargers trying to catch people, that's how they catch that data. Will these systems communicate together? Or are we going to have double coverage where we might have a flock camera similar to where St. Louis County already has one?
All flock cameras communicate together.
Okay.
So if it's in Ferguson, it's named Ferguson.
And then just to be clear, if something pops up on a flock camera, the Department of Justice will prevent us from chasing that individual unless they're wanted for something very heinous, correct?
Oh, that's.
I think our insurance policy will do that.
Well, right. Well, I mean, obviously, certainly the consent decree and the concerns about, stopping, folks with the consent decree are still in place regardless of whether or not we have block cameras. So we'll have to use the camera system, in conjunction with the requirements of the consent decree.
That's from what I've kind of gathered. Our police are very limited in pursuit. I mean, they have to damn near shoot at a police officer, and that's still questionable if they should chase them at that point. So I don't want the community to think that this is let's all our like a real big prevention tool or crime fighting tool, because we are going to have our hands still somewhat tied. We can't just go barreling down Florissant Road because somebody with an expired tag, popped off the flock camera, or a stolen car. We wouldn't even chase them for that if they weren't a wanted individual for something much more serious, correct?
Yeah. The city's police force is very limited when it comes to chasing vehicles, and there are certain situations under which a chase, previously could happen, but now it just cannot. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Linda was first.
Okay. Linda, excuse me, Councilwoman Lipka.
Thank you, Mayor. Couple of things to keep in mind too. When Chief McCall was here, and it can be done even with Chief Doyle, the flock camera is a license plate reader, so we can get stills off of it. So we do have the opportunity to get stills off of it. You can freeze the screen, get a picture of it. So we still have the opportunity on those things where we're not going to chase them, but we know that they're chronic or I'm just using that as an example. We can send them stuff. We get a picture of their license plate. We go to their registration. We figure out who they are. We can still fight crime without having to chase them. So that is a benefit. The other thing I wanted to point out, I did go to the flock camera website, and it says 7 out of 10 crimes are committed with the use of a vehicle. Capture the vehicle details. You need to track, lead, and solve crime. They have vehicle fingerprint, and the vehicle fingerprint technology, search footage with vehicle fingerprint technology, access vehicle type, make, color, license plate, state, missing covered plates, and other unique features like bumper stickers, decals, and roof racks. So it will give you a very good idea of what you're dealing with.
Correct. Okay. At this time, I request a motion and a second for approval.
So Linda Lepka.
Second, Heather Robinette.
Clerk Pittman, could you please call the roll?
Aye.
Councilman Nelson. Councilman Noah.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Mayor Jones.
Aye. Resolution number 2023-12 passes. We move to bills requesting the first reading. Bill number 7242, without objections, were introduced by council members present.
If I have an objection, should I say it now?
Yeah, before we go into it.
I would like to postpone this bill as a first reading until we have more time to hammer out some details that would affect the agreement financially and long-term with the city of Ferguson and St. Louis County.
That's your motion.
I'm making a motion to do that, yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Clerk Pittman, call the roll so we can hear.
Councilman Lipka.
Aye.
Councilman Noah.
Aye.
Councilman Palmer. Councilman Ashby.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Bill number 7242 has been postponed to a later date. No date has been given.
Thank you, Mayor.
We move to bills requiring second reading. We don't have any. We move to unfinished business. We have unfinished business of the consideration of postponed bill number 7233. Before we could do anything, we need a motion and a second to require to remove this bill from the table for discussion.
So moved, Heather Robinette.
Okay, Clerk Pittman, could you call the roll?
Councilman Robinette,
Aye.
Mayor Jones,
No.
Councilwoman Lipka,
Aye.
Councilwoman Mill,
No.
Councilwoman Noel,
No.
Councilman Palmer.
Aye. And I apologize. What am I, if I say yes, that means we talk about it. If I say no, that means we don't talk about it?
Correct. If you say yes, we move it from discussion and move it from the table in order to have a motion to discuss it. So if we say no, it remains on the table.
And then we can, well, we can't have any further conversation about it in this
And
session.
we could bring it up again at a later date.
But if it stays on the table, is that a work session or something?
If it stays on the table, it should be a work session. It'll be better for people to have an opportunity. But right now, we moved the bill from the table for discussion, and we are in the voting process.
And so have we, and I apologize because I think I'm the holdup here. And I still don't quite have my arms around this. Do we, and Octavia, I'd sent a list of questions. Do we know which boards and commissions that we're having problems getting quorum on and how far down we are on those?
So I think what you asked me specifically about was those that were recently removed.
Well, a couple of things. That was the first part of it though, you know.
And so I do know that there are 12 or 13 people that were recently removed. But that's not related to this particular bill.
We have not heard from. Okay, go ahead, attorney.
So I think the question that you're asking, Councilman Ashby, I think the motion and the second was to be able to have that discussion. To
But-
remove it from here to be able to have that discussion. And so, at any point in time, once you guys have the discussion, the bill can then be placed back on the agenda to be voted on or whatever, but because of it had already, it's sort of, it had been read a time, I think.
It has been
it had
first
been
reading.
read The first time, and the idea is to not, when we put it in unfinished business, so that it's not read a second time. So the idea is it's sort of in the process of being, going through the first and second step. So the motion is to take it out of that process, right? And then you guys have a discussion about what, you want to have the discussion about, and then you can either decide to put it back into the process or no.
Okay. If I'm understanding that correctly, it sounds like I can cause us to discuss it over the next 30 minutes. Or I can defer to a later date and maybe do more research and talk to Mike and understand more about some of these things. And then we can bring it up next session.
Correct.
Correct.
Right. In the goal of getting the meeting done in 2 hours, I would like to table this to another time or so that, and I apologize, Mayor.
So you just vote no.
Okay, I vote no. Sorry.
Okay, that's,
Trying to figure it out.
that's fine. It's a training period,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you're fine. You okay. You okay. Octavia, could you give us a vote count, please?
4 no and 3 yes.
Okay, so the bill remains on the table for now.
Mayor, could I make a request that we look at the calendar and set a date for that work session so we can get it off the table?
Well, thank you. Come up with a date.
So we have budget coming up.
In May.
And our council meetings in April are the 11th and the 25th.
Not quite.
Second.
No, we
The
have
third
election
and fourth.
coming up, so
Oh, I
we
forgot
have to
about that, yeah.
skip to the 3rd and the 4th Tuesday.
So 18th and 25th.
Mhm.
Um,
You also have a special session that is in the works for the 27th.
We got a special session.
The training session. I believe it's the 27th.
Okay,
I believe it's the 27th.
Deborah.
What about? Feel free, anybody else, to throw a date out. Good Friday is the 7th, so I don't want to do that day. What about the 11th? That's a Tuesday. So you've got the election the first Tuesday. If we did this the 11th, that'd be us in a meeting the second Tuesday, and then council the third and fourth Tuesdays.
We tend to not to want to hold a meeting in between that election
Okay.
time.
Okay, so
The 20 what?
that's a Friday.
And that's the day I take the tour with the new community development director. That's one of the dates that was proposed. The 21st.
I think the 14th is the day that was settled on. I have to double check, but I think today we had some communication back and forth, so it might be the 14th.
So what time was that originally proposed for, that walk?
That's in the morning.
Okay, so we could still do something in the evening.
Okay,
So Phaedra, are you saying the 21st of Friday? Yeah. What time would work for you? Because I know you. I work, but I work for myself, so I can.
we understand that,
So what is, okay, so what if we said 6 o'clock
6 o'clock, what date?
on Friday, April 14th? No,
We couldn't do it any earlier in the
April,
day.
I'm sorry, Friday, April 21st.
April 21st. I don't want to move this to the email because if it gets in email, it gets jammed. So we need to come up with a date.
Miss Noel, when are you available? If you looked at your Fridays in April, which one would look good for you?
Does it have to be a Friday?
No, it doesn't
Yeah.
have to
No,
be a
we're just-
Friday.
So I was saying Tuesdays, we came up with a reason not to like my date. So then Councilwoman Nelson brought up a Friday. So I'm just trying to everybody try on a Friday see how it fits.
Well, since we're going to have the tour on the
Speak into the mic, please.
Since we're going to have the tour on the 14th and then that morning, how about we have the meeting after that? We'll already be together.
Some people have to go back to work.
Right. And some people won't even be there because of work.
Okay. Well, what about the 26th?
What's the 26th?
It's a Wednesday.
Wednesday. I'm good with that.
That'll work on my schedule.
The 26th. Everyone in agreement for April the 26th?
Mike, would that work for you, sir?
6 o'clock.
Everybody shaking their head up and down, so.
Wait,
What's going on on the 26th? Okay, okay. We all agreed to the 26th, April the 26th, to have this discussion on bill number 7233. I'm putting it down, April,
and Mayor, this is not an
26th.
overall discussion. This is just this bill.
Justice Bill.
Correct.
If we don't tack anything on later.
We're not playing United States Senate. No.
Okay.
No.
All right, so it's April the 26th. What time? 6 o'clock?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Clerk Pittman, do you have the date? Thank you, Clerk Pittman. We move from unfinished business to new business.
Mayor, I
Do
have,
we have any new business?
sorry, yes, ma'am, I have new business. Okay, the new business is the Ferguson Neighborhood Improvement Program and the ARPA funding, the matching grant. So I have a few questions. So my question is, do I ask my questions now or?
Ask your questions, please. We
Okay.
in new business.
The first question is, can the council verify that the FNIP matching grant reimbursement funds or the ARPA funds or FNIP funds?
What is it? So
Would like to know the matching funds for FNIP
Yes,
for the exterior program. Is
Right.
that not correct?
yes. can we verify that the FNIP matching grant reimbursement funds, the funds that are being reimbursed when people apply for the matching grant, exterior home grant program, are these the ARPA funds that are being reimbursed, or are these FNIP funds?
Where's the money come from?
This would be ARPA funds.
Okay, this
Yes.
is ARPA.
Yes.
The FNIP has their own funds as
Right.
well.
Well, I just want to verify where the reimbursement is coming from. Just so
So-
everyone is clear.
When's the next FNIP meeting?
First Tuesday in April,
Tuesday.
First Tuesday in April?
which is the election day. So I don't know if they-
April the 4th,
I don't know if they delay it or not due to the election or not.
Forest would go meet. They always do. We gonna meet no matter what. Okay.
The-
Go
Uh,
ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think we should probably have an FNIP meeting to see where the funds all are, how much is there, and then to move forward from there. And obviously, we have the election on that, so I would imagine it would be postponed or moved to another date.
The meeting on the first Tuesday of April. FNIP, are they going to hold the meeting?
As far as I know, I mean, they haven't published the agenda yet. Usually it's about the week before, but as far as I know, it's usually the first Tuesday every month at the community center.
Okay. Well, let's just safely assume that you all will, FNIP will meet April the 4th.
And then Evan Trump might be able to help too with getting some information together too, because I think there are some transfers that go from the city to the FNIP because FNIP cuts the checks for the reimbursement. So he might be helpful too, to get some financial documents from.
I'll make sure he's there.
Okay. Yes,
I'm
Councilwoman. Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
wasn't finished. So just to clarify, should I stop the questions now and wait until the meeting because I have other questions? Or are we going to have a
So
meeting?
if you want, you can throw the questions out, and then if I can answer them now, I'll answer them now. If not, we'll have to wait till the FNIP
Right.
meeting, if that's okay.
Yeah, because some I don't think you can answer now,
Yeah.
but
I was gonna say, I'm not 100% familiar with this. Dave's here in the audience as well. He may know a little bit more as well to that, so I'll have him step up to that podium. And if we can answer any questions, we will be happy to.
yeah, I don't know if Dave can. Well, the next question is, what is the current fund balance? I don't think Dave can answer that.
Cannot answer that either. I do not have that answer.
What is the average reimbursement amount is the next question. I'll just call out the questions, what you
Yes,
can
ma'am.
answer.
And then
Is-
I'll get answers for everyone.
Is there currently a non-matching owner occupied grant program with the ARPA funding through FNIP? Because I assume since FNIP is facilitating the $250,000 that was allocated from the ARPA funding. And when we had the presentation by the president in January, we were told that there would be a program coming, a non-matching grant program. Also, is there currently a senior resident owner occupied home grant through the ARPA funding? And just curious as to the applications were sent out just in March. Residents received the FNIP ARPA exterior matching grant application, but the application doesn't indicate ARPA funding. And when Mr. Robinette stood at the podium, he stated that he would put that on the application so that residents are clear where that funding is coming from. So there's no miscommunication.
Yes, ma'am. And also maybe Mr. Palmer can answer some of that since he's on the committee.
At the last meeting in early March, they did discuss that they were going to come give like quarterly reports as to how it's been going because they had a real nice map and stuff. And they did have some numbers like that, averages, number of grants given. And I think at the time they were ramping up to do the mailer and they're waiting on staff to get them a mailing list, which they did eventually get that mailing list and then sent out the applications to every home that they anticipate was owner occupied in the city. If you come to the meeting in April, I think they probably could pretty much pull up the spreadsheet pretty fast to show what's been given and what hasn't. I don't know if they can do averages that fast, but the last two meetings, they did discuss a means tested program, I think is what they use the term, where it would be if people met certain lower income levels, there was going to be a program that was non-matching. It was just a grant program. They have discussed that among the board at, I think, 2 or 3 consecutive meetings. And it's been on the agenda each time, I believe, too. So I know that they have been working towards that and everybody's kind of giving their input. I'm just the liaison, but I have heard there a lot of talk back and forth between the members of the board and a means tested program.
Thank you, Ms. Councilman Palmer. The next question is, let's see. Okay, so when you told everyone in October, the October 25th meeting, that FNIP had came up with a matching grant, exterior grant program, and that like 20 people, I believe 20 people had applied already to the program, right? So there was no mailer mailed out. So now we have residents who are just now finding out about the program. Well, some of these residents have already had work done. So the question is, can we retro some of those applications? Because it's not helping some people. You know, if they already had work done, they didn't have an opportunity to apply to the program.
Yes, ma'am. I think at that meeting that the FNIP should address that, and maybe look at all the applications again. But I am not a board member of the FNIP, so I cannot tell them exactly what to do, but I would think they would probably have to look at all those.
And I respect that. It's just that these are ARPA dollars. These funds were sent here for the community. They're not FNIP dollars. And council did not have a say so in the criteria for the application. So I can appreciate that, you know, but it would be great if we could do whatever we can to help the community to ensure that those dollars are going directly to the people who need them most.
Yes, ma'am. And with that being said, I think council should come up with a dollar amount for the nonprofits, because we are getting a lot of people soliciting for the ARPA funds. So I think we have to have some sort of limit that the council puts on for nonprofits. So then that way we can have it out there and everyone can see how much is being spent. So we're very transparent and they know the cutoff.
Okay. Any other questions, Councilwoman Noah?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Well, thank you. Councilwoman Lipka.
So I have some questions for Councilwoman Noah, or some comments too. When you're saying you want the current fund balance, are you referring to the fund balance that is just the ARPA funds? Okay.
Yes, out of the $250,000 that was allocated to FNIP for the grant programs.
Because those funds are separated, you know, it's those funds and then the FNIP funds.
Right, just the $250,000.
And then average reimbursement, I mean, I'm just going to make an assumption here. If it's $1,000 is my limit, it's average reimbursement is probably going to be about $1,000 because I think people are going to try and use the highest limit. That's just a comment. And then as far as the non-matching programs and the senior resident home funding programs, I would say that is the city council. I kind of disagree with you when you said council did not have a say on how this was created. We actually sat at those tables in the middle of that room when we were doing budget, and we were talking about how we were going to enhance the value of homes in Ferguson using the ARPA dollars. And this all went back and forth. And then there was continual conversation when Eric was the city manager. And then when it was brought and proposed to the council, we asked a lot of questions, and then it became an actionable thing, which they are now doing. So I would say we did have conversation and we did have the opportunity to have input, but we only talked about exterior improvements. So I'm not against what you're suggesting, the non-matching and the senior resident programs, but that would be those would be 2 more conversations. And if you want to use ARPA funding, that would be 2 more installments of ARPA funding, because the $250,000 that we approved as a council to go over for the FNIP was to be used for this exterior program. So that's what that money has been earmarked for. Now, if you want to change the earmarks and you want to say, hey, out of that 250,000, I only want to use 100,000 for exterior. I want to use 100,000 for senior matching, and I want to use 50,000 for, you know, the non-matching program. Then you're changing the criteria that can be done, but that's not how it was originally done. So I want to remind you that your questions and your ideas are very good. I have nothing wrong with that, but the way it has been designed, approved by this council and has been implemented is $250,000 used for the exterior matching program. So if you want to change that, that's another conversation. So that's what I want to point out. So, and then following the rules, retroacting the program, I get the heartfelt part of that because listening to even this evening, and I've had other citizens come to me and tell me that too. The problem I foresee is that when does a rule work? When you set up the criteria of a program and then like I had work done and I was like, oh, can I get, and they're like, no, you didn't, that's not the rules of the program. And I'm like, ah, darn. Okay. So couldn't do that. And then I had work done on my mom's house. No, can't do it because you have to follow the process. So at some point, we need to be very careful. We need to be heartfelt and compassionate, but we also need to be very careful are we changing the process constantly? Because then it's not a process. So that's all I would point out.
Okay. We going to go offline because this is a never ending conversation and it's worth us taking a look at it, but not now. So we have a meeting on April the 14th. We can tack that on.
No, we already said that one bill.
I know. We'll come up with a date. It needs to be discussed and it needs to be discussed before we get to budget.
And I
Okay,
would also agree with you, Mary, that we need to get the FNIP information in front of us too.
right. Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
When Councilman Ashby was seated, does he generally take over the boards and commissions that Councilwoman Burrow had, or do we have to do a new process to set the people that are the liaison for those boards and commissions?
Well, traditionally,
I'll just step in, it'll be easier.
I'm thinking, we use this sign boards and commission right after we have the elections.
Right.
And that is when people have an opportunity to select or switch from one board to another one. So he was not assigned any boards or commission because 2 weeks out. And the library board, they kind of meet automatically. And the Economic Development Sales Tax Board has not met because it's a staff call and they have not met.
CRB?
The CRB meets every Monday. I think they meet every Monday.
Okay.
So. So how many? Twice a month. So do they have a meeting coming up?
I got something from Jerry Knowles. I was planning on attending that. I guess the question is, do you need to formally appoint me to those boards or can I just slip in there and do it on ad hoc basis?
No.
Right.
No, it's best that you actually be the council rep until we come back from the election, and then things will be. We start a new slate,
Yeah,
put it
I
that
understand.
way. We start a new slate. So if they have a meeting coming up, they do not need to meet without council representation. So we can all agree, we don't have to vote, that Blake can attend the CRB meeting as the council rep.
Yes.
That'll work? Okay. Okay. There you go.
Perfect.
All right.
I'm sorry, Mayor, for clarity, are we only saying for CRB?
Yeah,
Okay.
because economic development, sales tax, they're off in the library board. Okay. All right, we do need representation for the CRB. Any other business under new business? Well, we'll close new business and move to miscellaneous. Councilwoman Noah.
Well,
Councilwoman Noah.
First, I want to apologize to you all because when I walked out earlier, we didn't shake our hands and I just wanted to hurry up and get out here. So just, so for transparency. And I just want to, I know we just discussed new business, but just to say this as well as the FNIP and the matching grant. If the funds aren't spent because it seems like people aren't applying, what's going to happen to the remaining of the $250,000 if we don't come up with other programs to assist people? Lastly, North Hills meets every third Saturday via Zoom. South Central Ferguson Neighborhood Association meets every fourth Thursday via Zoom, and Southwest will meet every fourth Monday. But in April, we will not have a meeting. The meeting will be in May, the fourth Monday in May. Forestwood Neighborhood Association meets every first Tuesday of the month in person or Zoom, 7 p.m. at Emmaus Bible Chapel, 900 Highmont at Hornet. Other than that, thanks.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman,
I have nothing tonight.
Councilman Ashby.
Yeah, I just wanted to take the time to thank Drew Kennedy for his service to the city. He was a great officer for us for a long time and really put his heart and soul into it. And, we're sorry that he had to leave the force because of his physical situation.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Robinette.
I have nothing this evening. Thank you.
Councilwoman Lipka.
I got something. So on a national note, I wanted to take the time to point out to all of the citizens that there is a new campaign that is designed to help us come together as a nation. And it's hashtag and it's a blue square and it's Stop the Hate Against Jewish People. And it's very, very important because the blue square represents the 2.4% of the screen that it's on. And yet the increase in violence against particular groups of people, which is currently the Jewish people, is gone up 55%. So it's a very dangerous thing. And it's the beginning of other, we already know that there's issues, but when we let these things happen, they get bigger and bigger and bigger, and they start including more and more ethnic groups. And if you just want to see how it works, all you have to do is go read Mein Kampf and follow up on anything Hitler did in the history of the United States or of the world. So Stop Jewish Hate is hashtag blue square. And I encourage everybody to do some homework on it. We also have amazingly great museums in St. Louis that will give you a great education on the Jewish culture. Also, I would like to point out that we have had our 127th mass shooting in the United States yesterday. It is only March, and we've had our 127th mass shooting, and 3 children died. So I just want to point out that if you see or know anybody that is having mental anguish, mental frustration, anything, get them help. Make sure they can't get a gun. So those things are real important to me. I also want to let you all know we've got a really awesome program that FSBD is getting ready to start. And we're trying as FSBD, I shouldn't say we, I just sit there and get to listen to them. But the business owners are trying to utilize their business district to beautify and enhance the community as a whole. And so they're going to be doing an art walk. And what they're doing, the concept is we're working with UMSL and art students, and they're going to be able to bring in their artwork, and they're going to be able to display their artwork in the fronts of vacant buildings in Ferguson. So we are having our first art walk, and you will be able to walk up and down the business district and look at the artwork on April 28th. So there will be a reception, and I will let you know when we have more details. Right now, we're just thrilled to have this coming off the ground and actually coming into fruition. So keep your eyes and ears open for a beautiful art walk downtown. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Nelson.
Just got a little bit of a statement to make this evening. So, as we're supposed to be moving our city forward and working together with one another, it just seems that there's so much hatred and facetious things and statements being made that people are being allowed to make on social media platforms, especially when they're not true statements that are being made. But I just wanted to say, as a public servant and being the senior director at the Y, that it's important, and it's important for everyday part of me, for me, everyday responsibility to provide the health and safety of my staff as well as members in the event of a natural disaster or any aggressive intruder. So we provide programs and services to all age groups. So as a part of the emergency preparedness, we must work with our first responders and build cooperative relationships. I will continue to engage members of the police department and the fire department to participate in our monthly drills when feasible. It is important and it is necessary to do team building so we know who to talk to with the event of any crisis or situation within our communities and work together. End of discussion.
Anything else, Councilwoman?
That's it.
Okay. Clerk Pittman.
Well, just a reminder, it was mentioned tonight, but just a reminder that due to the election, the municipal election in April, our meetings in April are changed to the 3rd and 4th Tuesday. And so that's going to be Tuesday, the 18th and Tuesday, the 25th. That's it.
Thank you. Interim City Manager.
I'm just excited for Troy Doyle. So
Okay. Attorney Carey.
No, I don't have anything. They cut my microphone off. I'm the only one that. I guess that means I shouldn't be talking, so.
Okay. I just want to share with everyone, it was Ferguson time to entertain the Missouri Municipal League on last Thursday. And once again, our city clerk, she did a phenomenal, outstanding, fantastic job. All the mayors were saying how they need to step up their game when it's time for them to entertain the Missouri Municipal League. And the Missouri Municipal League is a very, very intricate part to our city. And we have a meeting every 4th Thursday of the month. They put out a newsletter just about every week on what's going on at the Capitol. So I'm going to encourage the council members to please get involved in the Missouri Municipal League. When we have meetings, we have an opportunity to share and talk with one another as mayors and council people. And you get to learn that what's going on in your city is going on in every other city. But when we come together and find solutions like the task force that's coming out, the MML, and that all the municipalities are working to get the flock cameras, all of these ideas are generated there with the police chiefs to help better serve our residents. So please get in tune with the MML. It's a very great municipal league for us to learn, and they have classes. We have a webinar every 4th Thursday. Octavia sends out the information for the webinar. The last one was on planning and zoning, and the one before that was on Prop M marijuana. So there's a lot of training out there for council people. So with that note, everyone have a great night. Go out and vote. Your vote matters. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion and a second to adjourn.
So move, Naquita Noor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Have a good night. We adjourn.